welcome back to another edition of the I Prefer the 80s and 90s Sports Podcast where I, Richard Harris, talk about why I prefer the sports of 80s and 90s to today. Today's topic is kind of be wide ranging, so I'm going to try to touch on everything that I can think of. And so here we go. Once again, I was asked recently by someone, why do you pick on this era of sports so badly? And I started to laugh. And the reason why I laughed is that what else is there in the world to really care about? There are serious issues going on in the world that is so depressing. The war between Israel and Hamas, women's abortion rights, education, whether or not our president is mentally fit to serve another 4 years as an 80-year-old, Donald Trump going to prison potentially, DeSantis and Newsom having these debates and comments across the country about Florida and LA. People saying that there's problems with inflation, prices are too high, gas prices are up and down. And so I choose sports. I choose sports to care about more than the real world because the real world really sucks. And the real world really is depressing. And if you wanted to throw my own personal life into it, I'm a single father. My daughter ain't here. My daughter is in the Bay somewhere, and I don't see her except for on holidays or except for at her whim, beck and call. It ain't like the old days when you were a father and a mother and say, I want Jimmy here today, and Jimmy's there. No, it ain't like that today. Today, kids are like, nah, I ain't coming. Or the parent, if you ain't really cool with the parent, she's like, she ain't coming. But me and my ex-wife are cool. I see my daughter on her vacations. Works out fine. And besides, it costs me a fortune. So I need to save up a fortune in order to see her, if you know what I mean. So I choose sports. And I look up and down my Facebook page, and I don't ask people for anything in terms of their opinions about sports that I don't know. And yet, every single solitary day, somebody is posting on my page, Facebook is posting on my page, groups, leagues, all kinds of stuff to do with sports. Whether it's talking about LeBron, whether it's talking about Michael, whether it's talking about Kobe, whether it's talking about Mahomes, whether it's talking about the NFL period, the Eagles, whether it's talking about the Rangers in hockey and baseball. Every day there's some kind of commentary on my wall that gets me fired up to talk about sports on my show. And I criticize this era of sports because there's so many opinions out there today that like it, that like the mediocrity, that like the control that the athletes have in college and in pros. They like that the sports world has become more masculine and feminine. They like the broadcasters. They like everything so much that they go over the top. This basketball playoff thing, the only reason why it's relevant, and it shouldn't be relevant, but the only reason why it's getting so much play on all the networks is that they're really trying to pump it up. They're trying to get you to go see teams play. And they did it in such a way where they're making players play. And that bothers me because I've never heard a professional athlete who's getting paid the amount of money they're being paid forced to play. And this playoff tournament thing, $500,000 per man who wins. $500,000 to you and me That's 5 years, 10 years worth of money. $500,000 to NBA players today, that's half a week's salary. That's not even half a week's salary for some. And so the younger players are fired up to play because they don't have the Damian Lillard, the Giannis's, the Kevin Durant contracts. And Durant's contract's actually not as big as theirs, but you got guys approaching 50 and 60 million dollars a year. So they don't care if they win the playoff tournament. $500,000 to them, they probably give it to a spouse or their children for a gift, a car, to a cousin. Who knows? I don't know. But the purpose of it is just to make the players play. And then when they're eliminated, if you've noticed, they go back to load management. They say, oh, back. He got a back injury. His foot hurts. Even though he dropped 45, 17, and 7, his back hurts. That's another topic at another time. Statistics today are a joke because they don't play defense. But yet we have these people on TV talking about how great these players are playing in an era where they don't play any kind of defense. Indiana Pacers last night scored 130 points again. This isn't the ABA. And they joked about it in the post game conference about, yeah, when we get to Vegas, we'll play defense. Right. They've scored 140 points already 3 times in games. And no one on their team is an all-star or has made a starting as an all-star. Halliburton will probably this year, and I think last year he might have got in as an alternate. But Buddy Hield, great player, not an all-star. Turner, the center, not an all-star because he's not better than Joel Embiid, so he's not going to get in over Embiid or Markinson or Vucevic. Markinson's in Utah. Vucevic from Chicago. And so I criticize that. The fact that they don't play defense. The fact that in my fantasy mind, I say if Magic played today, oh my God. They brag about how Russell Westbrook and Luka has triple doubles all the time. Magic Johnson set the standard for triple doubles. Can you imagine what he would do in the game today with Showtime? I'm not going to bring up the other MJ guy. Well, if Larry Bird played today, his back wouldn't hurt at all. He wouldn't have to. Why would his back hurt? Because all he would do is just YMCA it. And then the college kids. I told y'all for the last 2 days, I said the college bowl season is sad. It's sad because teams, players say deuces. Caleb Williams says, yo, I'm going to be the #1 draft pick in this upcoming draft next year. I ain't playing in no bowl game to get hit and hurt one more time, no matter who we playing against. Not intriguing enough. Going to San Diego might be fun for the Holiday Bowl, but no, not playing. And I expect others to follow suit. And so for all these people out there who are like, the kids need their independence. The kids need to be able to make their own decisions. This is what you get. You get a nation of kids who say, no, I ain't playing. And I tell you what's going to happen. And I wouldn't be shocked if it did happen. See, the NCAA tournament in the other sports, smart. The NCAA tournament in college basketball is an event. So everybody wants to play in that. College World Series, everybody wants to play in that. The Women's College Softball World Series, everybody wants to play in that. The Soccer Championship, everybody wants to play in that. That's the goal, is to win the national championship. Goal ain't to win the conference championship. Because if you're good and you get into the tournament, that's the thing. You get into the tournament. If you stink and you don't get into the tournament, your last game's play is the conference tournament. And if you lose, adios, amigos. But one day it's going to happen. One day, one of these players is going to say, you know what? We just played 30 games during the regular season. They're already saying that I'm going to be an NBA lottery pick. What do I care about the NCAA tournament? It ain't about me. You know what? The minor league draft for college baseball, they predicted me to be a top 5 pick. Why in the world am I going to play in this College World Series and hurt my arm pitching? It's a wrap. Can you imagine Jessica Allo saying, hey, I'm the all-time greatest home run hitter in the history of college softball. I'm done. I played enough. I won't play no more. Or Cat Osterman. You know what? I want to focus on trying to make Team USA. I don't want to play softball no more in the college. It's not fun. I've done all I can do. And that's where we're heading. Because the kids are getting money from sponsorships, from dealerships, from everybody. Why play? Yet another reason why I criticize today's athletes. The NFL. Every week in the NFL, the officiating is getting worse, not getting better. And someone will say, well, you do it. You call holding on every play and mess up the game. They're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. And that is so true. You call pass interference. I didn't see it from the angle I was sitting at. But see, what's messed up about all that speak is there's supposed to be all eyes on everything. There's supposed to be, your job isn't just to watch the line of scrimmage to make sure people aren't lined up wrong, jumped off sides. Your job is to watch the play. And if there's holding and you see it, you call it. If there's pass interference, if you're the referee by the goalpost or the further back judge, you call it. You don't say, well, John's right there and John didn't see it, so call. But these refs don't do that. But I find it funny, they do it if it's a great player and they throw like 10 flags. You ever see that on a pass interference call and like 6 flags come out? You're like, wait a second. If 6 different people saw this call, why didn't they see the other call? Why didn't they pay attention to the other call? Do they get admonished for, yo man, your job is to watch to make sure the play clock, yeah, when it hits 0, you're supposed to blow the whistle and say delay game. That's it. Your job ain't to watch nothing else. Your job is to make sure on the kicks, extra point, field goals, no one's lined up over the center. Give him leverage to hurt the center because his head's down. Your job is to call holding, is to watch the line of scrimmage, the middle of it. If you see holding on the far flank, that's not your job. That's BS. You're supposed to call it if you see it. And then the announcers are like, oh my God, there's another penalty. This 17th penalty call of the game. And you're like, You want it called, so they're calling it. They can't win, and the games suffer. There's no way in the world the Chiefs should have lost that game to Green Bay. That was pass interference. It was a mugging. How that referee in the back didn't call that is a joke. I criticize boxing. I say boxing is ridiculous because the heavyweight division is on steroids. And I don't mean steroids in terms of people taking drugs. What I mean is you have a heavyweight champion who's 6'7", 270 pounds, who carries 290 pounds. You can't have a heavyweight champion 300 pounds. And people say, why not? Because I say, because in the Olympics, it goes super heavyweight and then there's a heavyweight. So it goes heavyweight to super heavyweight. So how do we now morph that into anyone over 198 pounds is a heavyweight? So if Roy Jones Jr. fought Tyson Fury, he may hit him 100 times, but if Tyson Fury lands 2 punches, it's over. Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. fought in an exhibition match a couple of years ago. And there was all kinds of rules put in place because they're like, yo, Mike might lose it. So if Mike starts to beat the heck out of him, stop the fight. So I criticize boxing because it's crazy. I criticize boxing because the fighters don't want to fight each other. And some of the reason is logical. They say, I don't want to fight him because I want to hold my championship for a little bit. I respect that. But the nature of the beast is fighting. It's that simple. The nature of the beast is fighting. It's not being friends with all the fighters. It's fighting. You can be friends with them when no one sees. And that's the biggest issue of all. All these guys like each other, which is okay. Patrick Ewing and Michael Jordan used to have dinner all the time with one another. Charles Oakley, Patrick Ewing, and Michael Jordan have had epic dinners. Larry Bird and Patrick Ewing became buddies on the Dream Team. But on the floor, they try to kill each other. That's not happening today. You see random acts of violence in basketball games with guys who don't know each other, but they ain't fighting. I mean, Draymond grabbed Rudy Gobert's neck. You know why he grabbed Rudy Gobert's neck? Because that's the only thing he could grab. But there's like way too much love and camaraderie with everybody. See, when Martina Navratilova played Pam Shriver, they were partners in doubles and they won tons of major championships together. But they wanted to beat each other when they played against each other. When Coco Gauff and I forgot her name, my girl from Buffalo, when they play against Jessica Pegula, when they play against each other, there's no like in that matchup. They want to beat each other, but they're not angry with each other afterwards or during. They're loving. And that's why I criticize this era of sports. Because today it's easy to play. I think competition wise, the games have suffered because strategy wise, not as good. I think the reason why the Patriots stink today is not because they don't have Tom Brady. Because they have a person calling plays that aren't calling the right plays. And they don't have anyone to throw to. They don't have a running game, even though they got talent running back. You saw the kind of quarterback Mac Jones could be if he has weapons. I laugh because I think about Joe Burrow and Mac Jones in college. Joe Burrow in college got to throw to Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and a few others who are superstars in the NFL today. Mac Jones got to throw to Waddle. He got to throw to Devontae Smith, Jameson Williams. And there was another guy who's been off the scene for a little while because he has a kidney issue who's going to blow up the NFL when he comes to the NFL next year. After he's cleared from the cancer and all the stuff, he hasn't been able to play. And he had running backs. So you give a quarterback talent, he could do something. Now that is what separates the greats from the non-greats. Aaron Rodgers, he had guys who were good. They weren't great. Made him great. They made Devontae Adams superstar. Now he's a superstar. Tom Brady, he made Gronk, Wes Welker, and his little Smurf guys great. John Elway made the players great. Dan Marino, Dan Fouts. They work hand in hand. And here you have in college now, and in the NFL now. Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow still throwing to each other in the pros. But the criticism is bad because he ain't got nobody to throw to. Daniel Jones, the Giants have 800 receivers and tight ends and one Saquon. And he throws the ball to Saquon because we can't protect him. The Eagles run a play that nobody can stop because Jalen Hurts squats 700 pounds. So 1 yard in, it's a wrap. Somebody's got to stop that play, and no one is able to for some reason. It's not a situation of like handing off to the fridge or not handing off to McIntyre from the 49ers. There's a goal line. Low man wins, and then people come over the top. I'm not going to pick on hockey because hockey has shown in the last few years the one thing that it didn't never wanted to show, and that is the regular season is almost irrelevant because you play all these games and you get to the playoffs and it's a whole new season. For the Bruins last year to set the standard to break all these records and get knocked out in the first round shows you that it's all about matchups. Every sport is all about matchups. And if you match up well, you can beat people. And that's why I always go crazy with all these GOAT conversations because it's matchups. In the 80s and 90s, yeah, it was about matchups too. However, what to me separates Mike from everybody else is he played against different people. He played against the best players from the West each year of his championships. LeBron's playing against the same people. He's either playing the Spurs or the Warriors. And people go, what about the Heat? What about the Heat? That bubble championship is a joke. And then comparing people to Gretzky. Are you kidding? When a guy completely changes the way a sport is played, how do you compare to anybody? saying Aaron Donald is in the same level as Lawrence Taylor. I've never seen anybody dominate Lawrence Taylor. I've seen teams dominate Aaron Donald. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sorry for talking for 25 minutes, is why I do what I do. I didn't even talk about MMA.